Bill, jump in.
Yes, well, actually, if you look at the numbers of Cancer Research UK itself, and if you go on the website, and I encourage people to do so, she didn't answer the question before. It actually is quite down the line when you look at meat, and she didn't want to mention it. It is even according to Cancer Research UK itself, eating meat is one of the very low exposure risks when it comes to cancer. But I also want to jump in to answer the question that Mr. Springman was asked, and of course the answer is yes. Of course, he'd prefer everyone to become a vegetarian. That's exactly what he writes in his article.
That's exactly
I want to do. Well, you write it yourself, and people can read it for themselves. I want to just I want to finish my sentence. So when it comes to unintended consequences. Unintended consequences are very important because that's also what Mr. Springman doesn't look at. He assumes that if you increase the tax, some people will actually reduce their consumption, although he doesn't provide price elasticity for that claim. But what I want to say is that we've tried this before. Denmark tried this in 2011 with a tax on saturated fat of more than 2.3%. And what we saw is that the same parliamentary majority that introduced it abolished the tax 15 months later because it did not work. It didn't work because no, I know exactly what you're going to say because the claim is that it was reduced by 10 to 15%, but it wasn't. The actual reduction was 0.9% because people stockpiled by going to Germany and stockpiled for months before the tax was introduced, and so the actual reduction was 0.9%.
And the last thing, somebody would cross a border to drive into another country to save 10% off a can of corned beef?
Yes, the evidence actually shows that, and the consumer behavior shows that. And lastly, what I also want to say is what people did is they downgraded in quality. So people kept their fat consumption, but downgraded on the price. So they bought the cheaper brands in order to keep the same consumption. So just assuming that if people get rid of red meat multiple times a week, they will just stop their consumption of the same nutrients altogether. That's not true. We all know this. We come home from a trip, there's nothing in the fridge, we take the first thing we find. We eat candy if we don't have meat there. So just assuming that people give up meat and then don't use something else is just ignorant.